asking where are you all from? If you can just type in the chat, just for me to have a rough idea of where you guys are from, that'd be very good. I see that from Malaysia, Singapore, we have Jayanta from Mumbai. Malaysia, Singapore, Malaysia, KL, PJ for Elisa, Margaret is from Malaysia, and Nurhania from Selangor, from Kedah, Yek Y, Jason was from PJ. Okay, that's really great. Thank you very much for that. So we have a mixture of people from Malaysia and Singapore and Jayanta from India. And if you don't understand some of the words that I'm using, sorry, Jayanta, if I'm talking Malay unintentionally, then please do ask what is it I'm talking about. So for today, what I want to focus on is about how to write a more better CV and a LinkedIn profile, and a little bit of background about myself first. That I'm Dr. Azhar. I'm actually a medical doctor. I've been a doctor for 25 years now. I started in the UK. I studied in the UK, and I worked in the hospital setting for 8 years before I moved into pharmaceutical industry now. So I've been in the pharmaceutical industry 17 years already, and I've been with BI for 11 years now. And the last 5 years, I've been working in Malaysia. Before that, I've been very lucky, so travel the world and work across different countries. I work in the UK, as I mentioned, and then I joined BI in Germany. And then I was very fortunate and moved to the US, also with Boehringer. And then after that, I was able to get a transfer back to Malaysia. And this is where I've been now for the last 5 years. And I've been focusing on working on on development of my team. So making sure that they are progressing in their career. And in this year, the last 12 months also, I've been more active outside the company as well, to offer my training and development to all the others like yourself who are interested in progressing your career. So that really is my focus now, to help people like you who are interested, so ambitious professionals, how you want to climb the career ladder, because I've done it and it's possible. And it really is about planning to get to where you are in terms of your career. And I want to break it down to step-by-step plan. It's easier when you have a little step-by-step you can think of about how you can improve your personal self in your quest, in your in trying to reach the career goal that all of you have. And the first thing is your CV. Obviously, that's the first entry point when you apply for a job. And now that we are more modern, I think LinkedIn has been more what you call more relevant in the last 2-3 years. How you optimize your LinkedIn page. Interview skills obviously is key when you go for your interview. And then when you're in your current role, how are you presenting yourself? How's your presentation skill? How are you optimizing your work performance? And then the last couple of things are very, very important actually. What is your image in the company? What is your image outside of the company? And how well are you networking and maintaining your exposure to the right people in your company and also outside your company, if you are interested to move outside your company? Yeah. So these are the steps that when I think about how did I get to where I am now, the things that I need to look at in terms of my career development. What does my CV look like? LinkedIn page, interview skill, presentation skill, work performance, image, and your network. Yeah. Okay. So before I start on the how to write your CV, if you have any question, you can either just unmute yourself and ask me the question, or you can type it on the chat. Yeah. Is there any question so far? Okay, no, belum lagi ya. All right. Okay. So how do you write your CV? Yeah. How do you write your CV? before we go there, how many of you are actually actively looking for a job right now? If you can type in the chat if you are, yes or no. Let me see. So Jayanta, not really. Katrina, yes. Letitia, yes. Kumaran, yes. Ashish, yes. There is no. Elisa, casually looking. Wow, I like that, Elisa. Casually looking. So not really looking, but casually looking. And Jason, more for progression and development. Firdaus, also looking. Okay, thank you very much. So we have a mixture. Some are, Margaret, still thinking. We are all at various stages. Some are happy in your role, but nevertheless are still interested in possible opportunities. Some of you still thinking, undecided, and some of you are casually looking like Elisa. So how to write your CV? And I've seen many CVs, obviously. Some are good and some are like atrocious. And this is why I wanted to let people know how you can make it better. And when you think about a CV, first thing that you need to think about is that the CV is your pamphlet. This is the material, this is the leaflet that is going to tell the recruiter about yourself. So when you have this mindset, then it makes you think that it needs to be as creative, it needs to be as interesting as possible. And in yesterday, one of my friend on LinkedIn, Yatong, put this online when he made a comment about the post I had about my CV, about how to write a CV. And he said that, to me, the more better CV can be like a bikini, brief to cover the essential, yet make it attractive. And I think he really nailed it in terms of what we want the CV to be like, because it needs to be the one that creates the excitement from the recruiter, the hiring manager. Well, I really want to see this person for an interview. Therefore, it needs to be quite easy to read, but interesting enough that they want to bring you in for the interview. If you can imagine that there are so many CVs that the hiring manager has to screen through. And so for my last vacancy in my team, we had 70 people applying for 2 jobs. So if you imagine that we have to sift through their CVs thinking, oh, okay, I have 70 to read through. How can you be the outstanding one, the one that really catches the attention of the recruiter? Yeah. And therefore, what I say in terms of your CV, it needs to be very interesting. It needs to be easy to read. And then the last 2 points, it has to be relevant and it has to be tailored to the job that you're applying for. Meaning that in theory, your CV, every CV when you apply is different. So when you apply to job A, it's a little bit different because you've seen the job description. Therefore, you're tailoring your CV more for that job A. When you apply to job B, then you're tailoring your CV more for that job B because you've seen the job description. It's a little bit different than the job A. Therefore, you want to make sure your CV really stands out and it really matches the job description for that role. So therefore, every application should actually be a little bit different. I know some people who just send the same CV to every job that they apply for, and therefore it doesn't feel, and you can feel that it's not really tailored to the application, and immediately it starts to lose the importance in terms of the data or the achievements that's being presented. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, I'll start first with the personal details. The personal details is at the top part. And for me, it needs to just be quite brief. Only your name, your address, your email, your phone number, and that's it. It doesn't really need to include other details. So some people put marital status, religion, race. That's all not needed actually. And in terms of photos, I'm not a big fan of photos because people tend to put photos that are old or not very professional. So it actually lowers down the perception of the CV because the photo doesn't look good. So unless you have a really good photo, I would say don't put photo in that. So Jaspreet asked, I'm not comfortable to share my address. I think you can just put whether you're from Singapore or something like that. You don't have to put your full address. So for example, in Malaysia, you can just put Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. You don't have to put your full address in your CV. Yeah. Okay. And then, so that's the first part, the personal details and the photos. And I know there's a lot of discussion. Some people really like photos, some people don't. And for me, if you want to put photos, make sure that it is a good one. And then for the summary, I really encourage all of you to have a summary part at the beginning of your CV. And because what it gives the hiring manager, what it should give the hiring manager is a quick overview about yourself, and it should include the current role, 1 or 2 key achievements that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. And again, going back to how do I make my CV interesting to the hiring manager, always have that in mind. So right from the beginning, you want to already capture the attention of the hiring manager. And this is how you do it in the summary section. Just put something, put what is your current role and responsibilities, what are your key achievements, and how is this relevant to the role that you're applying. So if you think about this, then it already should. So it's a little bit like when you do the interview and the interviewer is asking you about, tell me about yourself. It should be something similar to that, because you already want to excite the hiring manager with the summary section of your CV. Yep. Okay, and then the next one is about the employment. And this is the order also that I would suggest you use rather than going to the education first. This the employment, because to the hiring manager, what you are doing now in terms of your work is more interesting, is what I want to know rather than your education. So therefore, I would advise that you put the employment part first before your education, and always start with the current one and then go backwards, meaning what are you doing now, and then just go chronologically, going down to your the last job that you had. Yeah. And then what you should do is put the job title, the duration, the date, and all that. So far, the CVs are usually like that. People are quite good about doing that. And then when it comes to the responsibilities and achievement, this is when sometimes I go, oh my God, too many details. And so there are just lists and lists and lists and lists and lists of different responsibilities and achievement. And when I try to read it, there's just too much to read. So then I don't know which one is important, which one is not important, because everything is just lumped together. So therefore, when you're doing this, you need to think about which one is really relevant for the role that you're applying, and which one are just boring responsibilities. Yeah. For example, in the past, I've seen CVs. I've been asked to review CVs, and it was from a doctor that was thinking into going pharmaceutical industry, and she had a lot of responsibilities and skills that she rightly so have from the hospital setting. But to give you an example, what is not relevant, she put there that she can take bloods. So when you go to hospital, like we take bloods and all that, and I was telling her it is really a skill, but it's not relevant for a job in the pharmaceutical industry. Therefore, it doesn't matter, and she can actually leave that out. And so when she went through all the responsibilities and she cut down her CV, which was originally 6 pages, then become 2 pages only. Yeah. So therefore, this is where you really need to pay attention that you are including only the ones that are relevant to the role, and it should be the more interesting one, the one that if I read it, I'm thinking, oh, that's an extra responsibility that I would like to discuss more. Okay. I'm just gonna go to the question. So Katrina said, I have quite a number of employer. Should I include all my employer? I would say yes, yep, unless it's really short and irrelevant. Recently, I saw a CV, and it was one of the job for only 1 month and in a field that's not related to what she's going to be applying for. Then I said, you know, no need to include that. Yeah, and then if you can try to, some people also have the same company but very different roles. Let's say they've been in the company 10 years and 3-4 different roles. If you think your CV is getting too long, try to condense that part. Think about how can I merge the, if the two are similar roles, how can I just merge them into one sentence, for example, so that it looks cleaner and neater in terms of the number of jobs that you have done. So I hope that answers you, Katrina. And then Jasprit, so it's similar to that in terms of how many jobs should we put. I would emphasize the current one and the one closest to the current one. Obviously, if you think it's getting too long and you think that the earlier ones are irrelevant, I think you can leave that out. And you can always, if they ask you what you've been doing, you can bring that in the discussion during the interview. Does that answer your question, Jasprit? Yes, great. Okay, and the next one is about the education. So I reiterate that my preference is to read the employment first before the educational part. And this, again, the same concept as employment, the most recent one first, and then to go backwards. And in terms of the school, primary school, secondary school, I would say optional by now, because especially for me, I'm you know, very advanced in my career now, where why I go to school doesn't matter anymore. Yeah? And nobody is gonna care or ask me about where I go to school. And therefore it depends on what you are, where you are in your career. If you're quite far advanced already, I think no need to include the school anymore. I tend to, or sometimes I also see people put all kinds of achievement in school, extracurricular activities, this grade, that grade. And again, think about, is it really relevant, or I can just leave that out? Because what happens, I think we think the CV is actually for us. So sometimes we do the CV for ourselves. So we're listing everything so that we remember them. But then actually it's not that interesting for other people. Therefore, you need to be a little bit more brutal when you look back through your CV and see, okay, can I just cut those things out when I send it out to the recruiter? You can still keep one version with everything in, because you want to still remember all those little minute details, but when you want to send it out to recruiter, you might want to have another version, leaving out all these unnecessary details. Yep. Okay, and then the next part after that is those are for me the important part. Yeah, the four main part: personal details, the summary, employment, and then the educational part. And after that is other achievements that you think you could not include in the employment and education. So it could be you're doing some voluntary work with NGOs, or you want some award outside of work, then this would be the place to do that. And then for hobbies, this is my personal opinion. I like to hear what people's hobbies are, and I usually also ask during the interview, because it gives me a different perspective of that person. I want to see what are they like outside of work. Do they have any personal interest? It gives me a more complete picture of who the person is. And references, I'm not too fussed about it, to be honest. It's more for our hiring manager, more for the HR department when you get the job. Therefore, if you don't have a referee, no need to worry about it so much. You can still just send your CV in, and if you are lucky and you get the job, then the HR, that's when HR needs the reference. So we don't ask the reference before the interview. It's only when you get the job that's when we ask for the reference. Yep. Okay. So any question again so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Jaspreet.
Dr. Azhar. In terms of the hobbies, right, I'm just wondering, like, I mean, if let's say the hobby I find that is kind of like boring, like it's a very common hobby, like reading, watching movies, like, do I still put that or don't bother to put it? I mean, unless it's really something like very different, like mountain climbing, for example, like it's so exotic. Then I put it down. What's your opinion on that?
No, actually, I think you should still put it in, because when I see those and when I ask during the interview, it would be, okay, so what have you been reading? And therefore we can have a discussion about the books that you read. And also for the movies, yeah, have you seen the latest Avatar? Did you see it 3D, 4D, or just the boring 2D? So for me, it still creates an opportunity for discussion later on. And during the interview, actually, what I'm looking for is when they say they have a hobby, how passionate they are about the hobby. So you get a feel about their passion about things when they discuss about the hobbies that they like. So these are the things that they like. So if they're discussing their hobbies like so only, then it kind of gives me a gauge about how are this person committed to their work and all that. And as you know, interview is very subjective, so we use all these things to try and gauge the character of a person. Yep. So to answer your question, I would still put that in. Yes.
Hi, Azhar. Can I understand what do you mean by hobby? I know, is it something you like to do or something that you like to do on a regular basis? Because I have a lot of hobby, but some hobbies that I don't do on a regular basis. So is it considered hobby?
It's something that you can talk about, really. So if you put it in, then it's something that can come up in your interview. Therefore, something that you are passionate about and can discuss more about it.
I see. Sure.
Yeah.
Azhar, I have a question about the pages of this CV.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned it's pamphlet, but then do we expect to concise everything to one page here?
For me, a CV, 2 pages maximum.
Maximum 2 pages. Okay.
Yeah, maximum 2 pages. Yeah.
Dr. Azhar, I have a question.
Yeah, Jason.
In terms of references, right, if let's say we were to provide, right, which references do we provide? Because assuming, let's say we have had number of employee years, so do we go with the latest ones, or is there a specific way about going about it?
It should be as close to the current time as possible. Yeah. Because we also understand that you might not want to use your current referee, right? Because of conflict of interest at the time. So it might be the one before that, for example. But
Okay.
if it's from 10 years ago, then a little bit difficult. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And make sure that the person that you are asking the reference for knows that you are putting them as reference. Yeah, that's the other thing. And then make sure that they will say good things about you.
Okay. And yeah, okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So Jayanta has a question. Yeah, if I have publication, should it come in an annex? Yeah. I think for you, Jayanta, because in the medical field is a little bit different, I would add that at the end. Yeah. So as a publication, if you have many publications, you can add that at the end. Yeah. Okay, any more
Yes, sir.
question? Yep.
One more question from me. It's
Yep,
about
Pei Wan.
photos. From my perspective, is the photos is like a first impression.
Yep.
But without a photo, it keeps the interviewer probably suspense to know what is this person about. Is that the reason why you prefer not to have the photo?
Yes, that's right. So in terms of the HR area, I know when later on when I talk about LinkedIn, you'll be thinking, why am I saying put photos on LinkedIn? In terms of the HR, then there's a lot of discussion about how to be as fair as possible during the screening process. Therefore, that's why we encourage people to eliminate things like the race, religion, and photos, because that can create bias at the hiring manager stage, and that's why actually it's not needed.
I see. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, then I move on. So I want to show, so this is an example of a CV, and this is a guy who came to me, and I got his permission to show his CV. I took away his name and his photo. So he sent me his CV and asked for some advice. How can he improve it? And so this is his personal stuff that I cut out. And he didn't have too much already. He only had the name, a simple address, email, and all that. He had a decent photo, actually, quite a nice photo. And he already had a summary, but the summary for me was too generic. Therefore, if you read it, it just says he's an engineer at this company. He does this, and he's a graduate from this university, and possess strong communication and presentation skill, and everyone says that. Everyone says I have strong communication, presentation skill, and hoping to secure a career in a work environment with an inclusive culture. I'm not even sure what that means. So therefore, the summary, although he understand he needs to have a summary, it wasn't quite selling himself to the hiring manager. And then he did do the work experience first in terms of the employment. So he did the employment, and as you can see, there's a list of things. So many things like report writing, presentation, designing internal roads, and I'm not even sure which one are the outstanding one. Maybe the designing internal roads is the interesting one, and if it was, it should be the first one here rather than the planning traffic surveys. And so he has other project that he put in, and to me, just too much detail and difficult to read. And this is the second page of his CV. He has included other training program. This one, Fit for Work, and I'm not sure the relevance of this. And participated in preliminary work for International Concrete Pontoon Competition 2020. Again, I don't know how this is relevant to his work. And again, this one attended a one-day research trip, and what does that add to his knowledge? So therefore, this becomes a list of activities that I'm not sure what the relevance of that is. He decided to have a separate part about skills, and this one is optional. I'm not too fast whether you want to have a separate set for skill or not. And this one may be quite relevant because in his area there are very specific software skills that are needed, and he has all these skills already. But then the soft skill, I'm like not too excited about it because it's very generic: presentation, communication, flexibility, which doesn't really differentiate you from other candidates. Yeah. And then in terms of the project, he then decided to include his undergraduate final year project. And again, I'm not sure what the relevant is for this. Yeah. So there's a big description of his project. Obviously, he's done well for the project and are interested in it. And for me, this again shows not understanding, is it relevant for the hiring manager or not? So this was the CV that he sent me, and then I asked him to work on it based on exactly what I've been teaching you guys just now, and then he managed to make it more compact, and I'm quite happy with what he did. Try to move it. So this is now his revised CV, much more concise. He removed the photo. And then his summary, I thought, is much stronger. So he put that I'm currently a traffic engineer at that, handling traffic engineering and transport masterclass project. I can do macro level transport modeling. And then his undergraduate project, he summarized into just one line. And I understand already why it's a good project, because it was published in Acta Geotechnica, and I'm sure people in that field will know what is this journal. That is a high impact journal, and he got his publication there. So immediately from this, I know what he does, I know what he can do already now, and then what his achievement during his undergrad. So I hope you can see how the difference is from the earlier one, which was very generic, to something that are now much stronger, selling himself as a good candidate for this work. And then he managed to summarize his roles and responsibility better. Probably still a little bit busy, but much more shorter than previously. And then he cut out all this other irrelevant part. And in terms of his extra research work involvement, also, if you remember, it was quite a long list. Now he really chose what he thinks is relevant for the job that he's applying for. Yeah. So you can, I hope you can see the difference in terms of making your CV much more readable, much more easy to read. When you look back at this, you're already bombarded by so much information that my initial reaction when I saw this is already like, oh, I need to spend quite a serious time reading it, meaning that I have to pay attention reading this CV, because I can see there's a lot of information that I cannot just scan. I need to read it. Whereas when I see this, my eyes are already feeling much better, because it doesn't have too much information, and it looks like I can pick out the relevant information, the relevant important information already. Yep. Okay, any question on this before I move on from the CV part? I hope that's clear about what you need to do.
Hi, Azhar. This is Natisha.
Hi, Natisha.
Yes, I would like to know, where can I put in terms of languages that I have in the CV? Should I put it at the top or at the bottom or after the education part?
I think
For the languages.
It depends where you're applying for. Yeah.
Okay.
If you are applying in Malaysia only, I would say, is it just Malay and English?
No, I can speak Japanese.
Okay. Then yes, I would put it at after education.
After education. Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
If it's
Yeah.
only Malay and English, no need to put.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We assume
Understand.
everyone can speak a bit of Malay and English.
For sure. For sure. Thank
Wow,
you so
where
much, Azhar.
where did you learn
Sorry.
Japanese?
Sorry.
Where did you learn Japanese?
I studied in Tokyo for 4 years.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. So that's how I learned my Japanese. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and any other question from you guys? Right, then I will move on. I'll move on to the next part. If I can. Alamak. Oh, this was supposed to be the question part. Okay, then I'll move to the LinkedIn part. And so my first question is, how many of you are active on LinkedIn? Meaning that you're posting or making comments and not just reading. So how many of you are active on LinkedIn? Oh, sorry, before that, there's one question from Ash. Is it necessary to include salary expectation in CV? My answer is no. Yeah, so you don't need to put your salary expectation in CV. Yeah. Part 1, not active. Just print active to kepo. Natisha co-active, yes, I can see that. Margaret CCTV. I like that. Alisa aspiring to write. Katrina active, Jayanta read post and comment. Natisha open LinkedIn every day. Ash is scrolling and reading. No idea to post. Wow, there's so many ideas in your head. Reading posts and looking at job openings only. Let's go on. Jason trying to be active this year. Okay, that's really great. Thank you, everyone. Want to post but afraid being judged. What I would say about LinkedIn is it's one of the nicest social media platform. Not to say that everyone is 100% nice. I would say 98% of the people are making nice comment only. Yeah. So I as you know, I post regularly and very rarely you get the not so nice comment actually. So therefore, if you want to think about writing, starting to write, I do encourage using LinkedIn rather than other social platform. Okay, so what are the things that you should be doing when you think about being more active on LinkedIn? And why I encourage people to be more active on LinkedIn is that right now it's competitive, right? The job market is competitive, and CV is one way of selling yourself, and then the interview, of course. And if you think about it, interview is only 1 hour. So within this hour, I am trying to judge your character. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's quite easy to judge your character. So what are the other avenues that you can show? What are your capabilities? What are your character? And one big opportunity is LinkedIn, because here is where you can show what are your projects, what are the work that you have been doing, how are you thinking, and these are all through your writing. And if you've been doing it regularly and gain the recognition by the people in your area, therefore, when you come for an interview, they already have an idea about who you are. So it gives you an added advantage because you're not limited to that 1 hour only to let the interviewer know about what you've been up to, because he can also read through your LinkedIn stuff. And I myself, when someone comes for an interview, I do check their LinkedIn. And if I can find them on Instagram or Facebook, I also look for them on Instagram, Facebook, to give me an idea about who this person is that will be coming to my interview. Yep. Okay. So the three things that I want to talk about today in terms of LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can talk about it for days. Actually, people run courses like a full day course about how to maximize LinkedIn. So tonight we are only going to talk about how you can optimize your profile, the posting, and also your engagement. And I'll give you some pointers that you can think about. And if you feel confident now to then start being more active on LinkedIn, that would be fantastic. If that's one thing that can be taken away today to help you be more active, then that's already a job achieved for me from tonight. So for the profile, basically what you want, so for the profile, then these are the different elements of your profile. Then I know that for CV, I said don't put your photo in, but for LinkedIn, it's a must actually. And again, must be a nice photo, a nice professional photo, so that people can see who you are. Because again, it's another social media platform. When you don't have photo, then people think a little bit weird that you don't have a photo for your profile, right? So I'm sure when you are scrolling LinkedIn, when you're scrolling Instagram, Facebook, when you see something that doesn't have a photo, you yourself has a negative perception already about this person that you've never met. But because they have no photo, you're already making judgment, making assumption about this person. So I've got some question already. One from Katrina, I missed earlier just now. Will this affect your job selection? Good question. I don't think it negatively impacted so much, but if you have a good profile, you are being active, I think it can elevate your job prospect. So not having it might not bring you down, but having it will elevate you. Hope that makes sense. And then, do we need to wear suit? Depends. If it depends on the business that you're in. If it's the corporate side, for guys, I would encourage to wear a suit. It always looks smarter for guys to be wearing suit. But if you're in different industry, I don't know, maybe fitness industry or more the F&B, then maybe it's not so relevant not so important to be wearing suit. So therefore, it depends on your industry, but more on the corporate side, I would say yes. Yes. You don't have one, just borrow one from somebody for your photo. Okay. And then the next part is about your headline. The headline, you can edit whatever you want, right? And therefore make it sound something that somebody can understand straight away. And I'm always revising what I write, because sometimes what I think is very understandable, other people who are reading it, especially those who are not from my industry, might not understand what I've written. So therefore, it depends on how you want to market yourself. If you want to very specific, you want to stay in your career, you want to stay in your field only, then you can be more technical about your description, because those who are working in your area will immediately understand it. But then the people from other industry will not, but you don't care because you're not trying to move out to other industry. So for myself, like my specialty in pharmaceutical industry is medical affairs. So if I put that I'm a medical doctor in medical affairs in pharmaceutical industry, nobody outside pharma industry would understand it. Therefore, that's why I've eliminated the medical affairs part. And then the second part is more about the career coaching right now that I'm interested in doing. And therefore, that's my other headline for that. And then you know that you have the banner section, this really huge area behind your photo. Again, you can think about how do you want to maximize that in terms of advertising yourself. Again, going back to what we say about the CV, or trying to sell yourself, advertise yourself as a pamphlet in the CV, and now you have another platform to sell yourself. So you can use the banner to optimize what you want people to know about you. Yeah. So you can have a look around in LinkedIn. There are some very good examples about what people have done with the banner to really highlight their specialty and what they have been doing. Yeah. Okay. And I see that Natisha agree about men wearing suits. Yeah, there you go. Men wearing suits always look smarter. Okay, and then there's a section about the featured there's a section called featured. And in this part, you can put link to, if you have some website already, if you have some posts that you have done in the past that are more interesting, you can link that up here so that when people go to your page, this is what they see. So for my one, I decided to put these 3 in and a few more that is on the right-hand side to the important things that I want people to see when they go to my page. So I want to see that I have this free PDF about how you answer the interview question, a link to my website, a link to the review of people who are who attended my training before. Therefore, you can choose what you put here. This is your own curation, what you want people to see about you. And then the next part is the about and the experience. So I'll go to the experience first. This is like your CV just now. And in terms of your current career and what your role and responsibilities are. And this part, really, I think you should pay attention to your current role and the recent one. If you have quite a few, then I would just do a listing of the rest, because otherwise it can get a bit messy again. Therefore, concentrate on the current role. And the about part is like the summary section of your CV. But you can elaborate even more because you have more space here. Essentially, again, telling the reader why more about yourself, your key achievement, again, making yourself as interesting as possible to the people who are reading about you. Yep. Okay. So any before I move about posting and all that, any question about your profile? Jason said, can you also do a video on ourselves? Yes, you can actually. There is in the for your profile photo, I think you are allowed, if I'm not mistaken, that one is quite a short one, about 15 seconds or so. But you can put in this featured section a link to where you want to store your video. Yeah. That's a good idea, Jason. I like that. And Jayanta asks, is it okay to add LinkedIn profile in CV? Yes, also, I would encourage that. Okay, I move to the, yep.
For LinkedIn, they actually have a section whereby you can advertise saying that you're open, looking for job.
Yep.
Do you put the one that whereby everyone can see the status that you wanted to be hired, or it's just the recruiter will be sufficient? Because there's 2 options.
Yep.
One is to the public, another one is just for the recruiter.
It depends on if you want your employer to know right now.
But as I mean, if let's say you are the boss and your subordinates is doing that, do you see them differently?
If we already had a discussion, then no, right? So let's say if I'm in a situation where we have a ceiling in terms of career progression, that someone is ready, but I have no job for them at the moment in terms of the next level. And then we agreed, okay, he's going to start looking outside, then I would be fine. But if we haven't had that discussion, then I would be, yes, quite surprised and not so happy.
Okay.
Okay. So Hisham asked how to introduce ourselves best. Oh, that's a very broad question. In terms of what setting, Hisham? Okay, I let Hisham type more. You can also unmute Hisham if it's easier to explain. But in the meantime, I'm gonna talk a bit about posting, and LinkedIn is now, or is, you get more attention if you start to post yourself. And I get a lot of questions. How do I find topic to write about? People say I don't know anything to write about, and that's not true actually, because we are all professionals now, and we have been working or studying, and we have our own level of knowledge in certain areas. So you do know a lot more than you think. What I find easiest to write is something that I'm interested about. Therefore, it doesn't feel that I'm forcing myself to write, because this is something I'm interested about. So for myself, if I'm sure you know, I write a lot about career progression because that's something that I'm very passionate about. I also write a lot about CrossFit, about my sport activity, because again, that's something I'm interested about. Therefore, it doesn't feel like a chore when I do it. Therefore, find something that you are interested in, because it's more fun to write about that. It's much easier to write about what you're interested in. And then what I would also advise is to be consistent. And that means making sure that you post regularly. It can be once a week, it could be once a month, it could be 2 times a week, it could be 3 times a week, but set a regular schedule for yourself that this is how much I want to post. And I would say that at least once a week would be good, because then it creates more awareness about your posting from your reader. So therefore, find something that you can manage. Yeah. And for myself, I actually post every day. For me, it is quite easy. The more I write, the easier it gets. So my post normally takes me only about 15-20 minutes to write. And therefore, I have no problem writing every day, even twice a day sometime. Yeah. And when you start writing, again, another pointer from me, to keep the message very simple. Don't try to complicate things. And my posting, usually one posting only has one simple message, so only one topic really that I'm discussing, and therefore it's easier for people to understand, yeah, what am I writing about that day. And then the last one is this 8-1 rule, and I learned about this from, there's a guy on LinkedIn who's very famous actually, called Eric Sim, S-I-M. He's a banker who's now a career coach, and in one of his training he said that he did some research on this, and he said that when you post, you should always be aiming to offer something to your reader, meaning there's a takeaway message for your reader. But once in a while, you're allowed to do self-promotion. So that means I got a new job today, I passed my exam today. So those kind of posting, it doesn't have any value to your reader. There's no takeaway, there's no benefit to your reader, but a simple advertisement about yourself. And so that's the 8-1 rule. So it should be that 8 containing messages for your LinkedIn reader, and 1 the self-advertising, self-promotion. And if you notice, actually, for most people who post, it's the other way around, that they post a lot about, oh, I went to this, I got a course here, and so there's no takeaway message for the reader, and it's nothing to do with the reader. And then there'll be one posting with a message. So it should be the other way around, that you're offering something, you're offering your wisdom, and then once in a while, so 1 every 8 posts, you're allowed to self-advertise yourself. Yeah. Okay. All right. I go back to what Hisam was asking earlier. Do we need to say something like, I'm very experienced, or we can say about our self-personalities? Very difficult to answer, Hisam. And I would say what you want to do in the about section is the same as the summary section, yep, of your CV just now, meaning that you want people to be interested in you, you want to build the credibility, you want to make sure that they trust you. Therefore, that's how you should be approaching those sections. It's hard from the question just now, but if you want, you can write something and send it to me later, and I can have a look at it and let you know what I think. Yeah. And so Jason made a comment, time to start posting more often and consistently. Yep, that's right. And don't forget the 8-1 rule. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't forget the 8-1 rule. Okay, and then the last part is about the engagement, and therefore the other part that is very important in LinkedIn is the engagement. This is a huge opportunity for you to make comments, to be answering the comments that people make on your posts, and you can also start looking for groups on LinkedIn that are relevant to you. So therefore, the engagement, what I would suggest is, let's say you're already starting to look out in your areas, in your business area, and you know who are the competitor, who are the thought leaders in your area. So look them up on LinkedIn, and then start engaging with them first by commenting on their posts. So let's say you're related to somehow in the business of Sirim. So the CEO of Sirim is very active on LinkedIn, actually. Therefore, you can start commenting on his posts so that he start noticing you. And then you also don't know who else are reading your comments. So that's how you are advertising yourself to the bigger audience by, what I would say, piggyback on the big boys already. So those who are already have lots of followers, you're making comments, so you don't know, or maybe thousands of people are reading your comments, actually. So this is a good way also to increase your visibility in LinkedIn. Okay, so that's a very quick rundown of what you can achieve in LinkedIn, actually. Yeah. So therefore, do you have any question right now?
Azza, I just have like a question.
Yep.
A suggestion that I'm thinking to post. You were saying about 8-1, the ratio that has the key takeaways to the audience. Since now I'm on sabbatical, or since my contract ended and I'm in between jobs where I'll wait for my next role, I'm thinking to actually to visit my ex-employers and ex-colleague throughout my contractors jobs, and also my permanent jobs, and also as well as some consulting company founder, which they has invited me over for their offices, of course, and take photos and maybe post in LinkedIn. That one, what I truly enjoy is also to visit those legal firms, and also the consulting firms, companies, and I'm glad that I'm paying a tribute to my ex-employer, and also to that I'm not my worth is not defined by my job title, but even yeah, you know, that kind of sort of post, but I'm not sure, is it like appropriate?
It depends on how often that is. Yep. So it
Yeah.
goes back to the 8-1 rule. Yep. So if it's too many of the similar one, then it doesn't really add much value to the reader. What I would encourage is, even for something like that, how can you add a message that is useful for the audience? So when you're meeting your colleagues from before, maybe you can think about, when I was there, what was my main learnings when I was working in that company, for example. And again, so that so it's then it becomes a blend of message and self-advertising. But the main thing is there is still a message that the reader can take away. So for example, let's say you go back and meet your first company and you said, the main thing I learned there was about time management, and the boss taught us this. Because then there's still something that the reader can take away and then apply if they want to be better at time management, for example. Yeah. Does that make sense, Katrina?
Yeah, I'm just like the reason why I'm afraid of being posting it is you know, as being judged, and also being judged that I may not move on from my previous role, previous company. But you know, I just want to like emphasize that that my self-worth, you know, it's not you know contained to a to a company or to a job title. That's just my key message to the
Right.
to the audience. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, I understood. Okay. All right. Thank you, Katrina. And
Thank
any
you.
other question?
Hi, Alta, Natisha again.
Hi, Natisha.
Yeah. What is your opinion? What is your opinion about getting recommendations from ex-colleagues or ex-employers? Is it good, and should we actually get it and put it in our LinkedIn as part of our promoting ourselves?
Yes, it's always good to have the recommendation. Therefore, if you can get some good ones, yes, please do so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good question, Natisha. Okay, any other question? Right. Okay, if there are no questions, then we are towards the end already. Let me summarize again what we have covered today. Therefore, for the CV part, what I want you to change your mindset to is that the CV is your pamphlet. Therefore, you have the liberty to make it as interesting as possible, eliminating all the boring parts that you have in before. So think about how you want to sell yourself already at the CV stage by making your pamphlet as interesting as possible. And then just now we already covered about the LinkedIn. Think about your profile, think about your posting, and then think about your engagements. Yeah, then therefore you will get more recognition, and this can aid in the job application in the role that you're applying for. So the last part, it'd be great if I can have some feedback for you. I hope you have enjoyed the last 1 hour or so. Thank you so much for staying with me for this whole hour. If you can write in the chat what your main takeaway from today, that will be awesome. So I'll let you guys type in the chat and I'll read them out to you. Yeah. Okay, I put a little bit of music while you're typing. Thank you, Natisha. Thank you, Maywan. So Peg Wan, good perspective from me as hiring manager. Thank you. Yep. So this is my point of view. And Jayanta, thank you for the tips and tricks. Thanks very much. Thank you, Kumaran. Thank you, Jasprit. Oh, so you learn about the 8-1 today, Jasprit. And Natisha, there you go. I need to update and improvise my CV tomorrow. Jason, thank you, thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Hisam, as well. Thank you for amazing session, Chetan. Thank you very much. And Margaret also, thanks very much for the sharing. Yeah. Awesome. So I love Elisa. You're more confident to write on LinkedIn. That's great. Looking forward to read. And Shay, thank you very much. Fruitful session. Firdaus, thank you also. Yep. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you for your comment as well. And I'm happy to hear that you found it useful tonight, spending your 1 hour with me. Yeah? So I go back to the step-by-step plan, right? So these are my suggestions to you in terms of what you need to look at when you're thinking about your career movement. So your CV, your LinkedIn page, your interview skill, presentation skill, work performance, image and personal branding, and then your network. So tonight we cover a bit about the CV and the LinkedIn page. Yeah. So then there are other parts that you can work on in terms of your career steps. And if you need more support from that, I actually run a training class on how to make a good first impression. And this is really key for the last part about how do you want to network? Because when you go networking, you're trying to make a very good first impression. And we say that first impression, lasting perception. And during this class, and Elisa, who's in the training tonight, she's been to this workshop earlier, and that's her in the pink. And during this session, what we do is a speed dating setup, and we learn about the elevator pitch, how you control your body language, how you do the mirroring, how you do the Chang and Ling, which is about connecting different subjects, and then how do you also remember names, and then how do you listen in a curious manner. Yeah. So these are the 6 different skills that you learn through the 3-hour training. And I'm sure if you want to connect with Elisa to get her feedback, you can also connect with her after this. And another training that is relevant is the interview. And this one is a 2-hour online interview. Essentially what we cover is we cover the 10 most common interview questions. So you might have seen the PDF already. And what happens during this online webinar is that we go through all these questions, and depending on how many you are in that session, you will get a chance to present your answers to the interview questions. And then we analyze and see, is it what are the amendments that we need to do to make it even more impactful. Yeah. So this training is this Sunday, and then this one is a physical training on Saturday. And thank you, Raj, for registering for this, and also Pick One will be there. So I'll see you guys on Sunday. And if the rest are interested to join for these 2 training this coming weekend, you can scan the QR code, which will take you to my website, and then you can register there straight away if you're interested. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much again, everyone. I really cannot thank you enough for spending your hour with me tonight. Happy to get your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you again in other training after this. Okay, thank you very much. Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Acha. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Alisa.